Motion to approve the agenda. Second. Hearing extra packet for the. We need another one. No, they so Kathy approved the agenda, do I hear a second? All in favor? Aye. Approval of the minutes. Second. Brian, Kathy, all in favor? Aye. And so we're gonna read the public participation. Members of the public and staff may raise their committee's attention and make ideas or matters of concern related to all the duties and responsibilities of this committee. This committee will not allow comments regarding specific staff members' personal grievances. After his remarks will be a portion according to the number of speakers and will be limited to 5 minutes per speaker and more than chair. That's slide up. You have your clock going. Yep. This is pretty fine.
You want me just to speak from here? I'm fine with that.
Sure.
Okay. You guys ready?
Mommy.
Oh, I have a mommy voice. I had to use it a couple hours ago when somebody wouldn't do their reading. Okay, so I'm Kristen Conway. My address is 27 East Lawn Drive, and I'm a parent of a kid in 7th grade. My 5th grader goes here at Forbes. I am speaking today to express my displeasure with the proposed dress code policy changes. First and foremost, like the phone pouches, you are moving forward without reasonable public notification, disregard for parent input, and without proper enforcement of the original policy. I respect each of you and appreciate the time you volunteer for our children, but some of you are just too outdated in your thinking. Times have changed and you are not changing with them. Spandex pants, like I'm wearing right now, are now mainstream pieces of clothing worn routinely by all ages in all locations, including work and school. They are designed for comfort and not anything else, despite what you might think. The world has changed since COVID. Spandex pants are now worn by most females in everyday life. There are several points I'd like to make. Policy changes are sexist, plain and simple. You are sexualizing female bodies and you are doing it at the expense of our daughters' body images. You are promoting body insecurity issues that will last well into adulthood. Why are we sexualizing girls' clothing? Who were you protecting? The teenage boys with sexual thoughts? That is their problem. And maybe we should be educating those boys and teaching them to properly behave, treat, and respect women as opposed to attacking them. Blaming female students for distracting male students is the same as blaming a woman who was raped. In 2023, you would like to think that we would give women the respect they deserve. Preparing students for the real world includes teaching male students to control their thoughts, urges, and words. It does not include forcing female students to adhere to a strict, outdated, backwards thinking, and sexist dress code policy. That's my job as their parent. I want to address the locker issue next. Lockers are assigned to every TMS student based on their advisory class, not most core classes. Furthermore, I have asked 3 times for Emma's locker to be fixed so she could use it, and it still has not been. Inability to use backpacks will increase time between classes. Why are sleeveless shirts an issue? I'm afraid a male student might see a bra strap, and God forbid, get a certain feeling. Let's not forget some of our students attend a school without air conditioning on the 3rd floor. Sleeveless shirts have always been allowed, provided the material is 2 fingers wide. And yes, I do measure my kids' shirts when they come to school here when it's hot on the 3rd floor in the school. Speaking specifically about spandex pants, I want to know if a male student wearing gray sweatpants will be told he's in violation of the dress code because his genitalia can be imagined through his pants. We are damaging our daughters We are damaging the way they see themselves. We are making it acceptable for them to be sexualized for what they wear, and that is unacceptable to me. In closing, I would like to address uniforms specifically. This is not meant disrespectfully, but uniforms are usually associated with private schools that provide high levels of education as well as safety and state-of-the-art facilities. We don't have bathroom doors. If you want to force students to give up their identity and individuality, you need to provide a private school level education, security, and buildings. Lastly, I would like to point out that parading your family members at meetings and asking them to speak on a topic affecting Torrington public students when they don't attend a Torrington public school is not only inappropriate, but deceitful. Thank you for your time and consideration, and I'd also like to ask for a clarification for the proposed policy of having to wear shorts or skirt over spandex pants.
Vanessa Ahern, 30 Charlton Street, Torrington, Connecticut. I've come to speak before the board today regarding your plans on attempting to change the dress code policies in our district. I reviewed your previous meeting minutes, and it looks to me as numerous parents and students came out to speak in opposition of making large changes to the dress code. I was appalled to see that one of your staff members actually had the audacity to reference the students who had the courage to come before you with their concerns with the comment, "To the kids who are frustrated, the other option is uniforms," completely disregarding the wishes of the students and parents in this district once again. I own a small business here in town where I talk to a lot of parents and a lot of educators, not only in our district, but in surrounding districts as well. Our special education department and lack of services is joked about. We're a laughingstock when it comes to the amount of money that the board has spent behind taxpayers' dollars on cell phone couches, and will continue to have to shell out for these couches. We can't even fill job positions for substitute or paraprofessionals because of our terrible reputation. Just this evening, it was brought up at the state hearing in regards to the restraint and seclusion bill that Torrington Public Schools have had over 70 cases of restraint and seclusion that are not being followed up or properly filed. These are things that needs to be concerned about. It's referenced many times that changing the dress code for the safety of the students. In what way exactly will you be making our students safe by changing the dress code? Maybe the money spent on cell phone cases should have gone towards better security for middle school. If we're concerned about our safety,
continue to discuss things that cannot be proven.
for the implementation of
I will have
uniforms,
to remove from the meeting. We're not
speaking
doing,
about the uniforms now.
you can talk to uniforms, do not talk about our special education department, our staff. Because that's your side of the story and it's not factual and it's completely inappropriate and goes against the guidelines of public comment.
There was actually,
Take it down
it was
a
brought
notch,
up at
take
the
it down a
state,
notch, or you'll be asking me.
it was brought up today at the state, some of those facts, and if you want to look them up, I can provide you with that.
You've been asked nicely.
As for the implementations of uniforms, I ask you all, who will be paying for these students? School uniforms vary in price from $25 an outfit to $200 an outfit. If everyone had 4 outfits, that would cost parents an additional $100 to get $100 per child. We have a large number of low-income families in our town, and you expect these families to be able to pay for 2 wardrobes for their children. Not only that, but if these families can only afford 1 or 2 outfits and they rely on a laundromat to wash those clothes, that student is going to be wearing smelly clothes to school. And do you think that's going to make them feel any better about the environment that they are in? Inner city schools that require uniforms are typically given financial aid or vouchers to help cover the cost of these uniforms. Can our town do that for families that would need that? We have had many students in this district with intellectual disabilities stemming from sensory processing disorder to autism and ADHD. That makes it so certain items of artificial clothing actually make their skin crawl. How do you plan on making sure those students are not overwhelmed by the fact that their clothing can literally make their skin feel as if it's itching all over their bodies? Do you not think that will impact their ability to learn and retain information that a teacher is trying to teach them? I thought we were trying to not interrupt the educational process. I am well aware this board has a history the last few years of going completely against what students and parents of this district want. I'm going to remind you all that we're all up for election at some point, and parents are getting sick and tired of the board not moving.
Say your name and address.
My name is I can't hear you. force you use on your brother.
Can you give her a minute? She's very upset about this issue. She hurts. You want mom to leave for you, Cindy?
You want mom to go?
That's okay. We're still proud of you for writing it.
Absolutely.
My daughter's name is Luna Forge, and she is in 5th grade. I asked her, how do you feel about not being able to wear leggings at school? And this went through. She goes, I honestly do not like the idea because I have not worn. I honestly don't like the idea because I haven't worn jeans since about kindergarten. So this is what I don't like. And the reason is because I don't like the feeling. They are just really uncomfy for me, and I don't feel like I should be forced to wear clothing I feel uncomfy wearing. I looked around the school in my class, and I have noticed that most people wearing leggings and jeans, and it wouldn't be fair to the people who also wear leggings if they got them taken away. One second. She doesn't happen. No. You want to know how I with her? Okay. My name is Chris LaForge. I live at 141 East Wood Road. I have 2 children that go to Torrington Public School. One, as you can see, is a 5th grader at Forest, and I have a 3rd grader at Torrington. I also hear about the controversy with the uniforms issues with the leggings and that's something that concerns me. Leggings are not just exercise wear and basic clothing style that if you look around the schools, most adults and children are in hoodies, spandex, and legging material. If the dress code is in question, there are other things that should be brought up based on more towards the female body, like shorts that are very short, especially with the clothing with crop tops and sandals. My daughter is 5th grade and has not worn a pair of clothes of jeans since maybe 3rd or 4th grade. We've tried every brand and size, and unfortunately nothing fits properly. She is not comfortable in anything other than leggings. What is she going to be forced to go to school in? Sweatpants or oversized gym shorts? What is that going to do to her child's self-esteem if she looks like she's going to school in her pajamas? Uniforms are more of a private school attire and not public, and how are they going to afford us all? I cannot afford 5 uniforms a day if you were to go to that. So again, like other parents have said, are you guys going to be providing uniforms to the parents? This is something that I think there's many other things that should be focused on other than spandex and hoodies, especially seeing how this covers most of my body. If you look around at the middle school and high school, I can point out piercings, tattoos, half of the bodies and chest and bottoms very much exposed. So I think the fact that clothing that covers people's bodies is really the least of people's concern. Thank you.
George, right?
Yeah, I live on Free Country Club Road. They basically summed it all up, but the problem is my daughter was born with sensory disorder. 1 in 6 kids are born with that. All she will wear is leggings. If you guys pass this, each one of you guys come to my house every morning and try dressing this kid. She will scream, she will cry. There's nothing they can do with baby therapy, nothing. I don't understand what the problem is. If she can't wear leggings, your son's, anybody's kid, is not wearing skinny jeans. Because if you can't see my daughter's butt, she's in kindergarten. But if you're in high school and you can't look at a girl's butt because she's wearing leggings, I don't want my daughter looking at some kid wearing skinny jeans with his whole back showing. What's the difference? I don't understand how clothing is affecting their learning. You guys have an answer for this?
The sick comment section, so you can make your comment.
That's all I have.
Thank you. Anyone else? Anyone on the public line? Okay. Next up, discussion, student dress code, 5040. And I'd like sort of the owner chair of the board.
So I'd like to make a recommendation. One, all of the policies that are being looked at are all optional policies. No decisions have been made. The rumor mill kind of went with some certain things, but that's not what the board agreed to at the meeting. I just want to make that clear. Because in these type of situations, I think gossip and spreading information that isn't true makes the situation worse. And we do want to listen to the public, but our public is the people that are here tonight. And it's also all of our other here. We have almost 4 of them. So the board is conscious of your concerns, but we will, and I'm going to say, let us, people were against yonder. The proof this year has shown that was the right decision. Behaviors are better. Chaos is
We're not talking about those right now. We're talking about the uniforms.
Excuse me?
So I'm gonna propose though, because we have a lot of changes coming up. We have a new superintendent coming in. We have to draft a new handbook. That the board table this until we have our new superintendent and we're working on next year to really look at this more thoroughly. That's my recommendation to them.
John?
I'm willing to step.
Yes.
Only if there is an understanding that what is currently in the student handbooks is what currently applies.
I'm willing to take.
Sorry, I don't mean to, can you speak up? It's hard to hear.
The recommendation was to put this on hold. Did you hear what Kevin was saying?
I didn't know. I heard a recommendation, but something about a new superintendent.
Put this on hold. We're getting a new superintendent. We'll just keep status quo for now. And then the superintendent comes in. We will be revisiting.
Gotcha. Thank you. I appreciate
You're
you.
gonna broadcast that when the next meeting is happening? Because I found on Facebook, there's a letter sent home.
It's on the website, our meeting.
Or you won't. Yeah, I
know.
and I'm not trying to be difficult. I think maybe you could, if you tried to reach parents in different ways, like through a Power School announcement, or maybe ask the PTOs to post on our Facebook pages, or ask the schools to post about it, or send an email home. I mean, I think you would get more parent involvement, and I think their transparency is what you're trying to obtain. Am I correct in thinking that? I think if you went about it a different way, as opposed to having to click a few different areas on the TPS website, maybe.
Well, our meetings are the first Monday, the first Wednesday of every month.
I understand that a lot of parents don't know.
So I can just say that, so the board head actually can't communicate with the parents.
Right.
through Our school, because we give them that information to school,
Right.
not the board of education. We did assign 2 PTO liaisons. So we're hoping maybe that communication can go, and then the PTOs can disseminate information.
So we'll work on that also.
We can work.
Yeah, I would like to see more transparency, because when I'm talking to parents, they don't know what's going on. You know, not everybody knows to go onto the website and look at the agenda.
The website is not user friendly. It's not for parents trying to navigate your website.
Is that inaccurate information is also being put out.
Oh, absolutely.
And
Make sure accurate information.
Well,
It's not like
let
copying
me-
yours.
Excuse me, the person that's on the committee has the floor. If you would like to say something, you can raise your hand. And when our committee is finished discussing, then we can call on you.
I sat in on all the policy meetings because I am on the policy committee, and was overwhelmed by the inaccurate information that was posted on Facebook. And I'm not a Facebook stalker. I don't spend a lot of time on Facebook. However, when people call me and say, so-and-so's put something on Facebook, or check Torrington chatter, and the information that is out there is totally inaccurate. This
Right.
board at no point said we were going to ban this, or this. The policy hasn't even been finalized yet.
Right, and I
So I
completely
think
understand,
that's the other part that,
but
that our community needs to be responsible and asking the people what the accurate information is.
and I completely understand that, Kathy, and I appreciate that. I think though, it's a two-way street, and I think if the information was put out, like, this is what our agenda is, this is what we're gonna be looking at. to avoid misinformation, then we would kind of eliminate all that.
If you go to the webpage, on the first, like, we just had the first Wednesday is always policy.
Right,
It
I
says
do
policy
that,
meeting.
not every parent.
Click on that, you should have a full agenda. of every
I
policy.
understand, but most parents don't even know where to look.
It's easier than webpage.
Not so.
We can set something up.
Thank you, I appreciate that, thank you so much, thank you.
Couple more comments and then we'll move on to the next, sir.
Well, there is a huge lack of communication because I emailed someone on your board. I got one email, but they sent it over to the head of your board 2 weeks ago. Not one email back.
That was me, my other concern. A lot of the things that we find out, if you, I've been a parent, my daughter's in 5th grade. I am one of the only parents that show up to the Board of Ed, not Board of Ed, the PTO meetings. Not many people know when the Board of Ed meetings are. If like we were mentioning, if they can be posted on some form of paper to send to school. A lot of parents don't have these, a lot of parents don't know how to navigate the website. Again, it's going to this page and that page. And when you look at it, a lot of people don't know what is being talked about. You say, how, like, see, money. People don't know exactly what is being talked about for what schools. A lot of parents, when I say there's a meeting tonight, they don't know of what is being talked about. That is the biggest issue is like they were all
Okay,
saying.
so then you as a parent, you know it's on the website, you can spread the word. that
People, it shouldn't, it should not be parents' responsibility to be word of mouth. This is something that should be transparent when we all go to school. How many parents
you're
know?
passionate about?
Okay, but it should not be one parent. I'm saying is not many people know how to get a hold of this information.
So the Board of Education is not communicating to parents.
I'm not saying call every parent. What I'm saying is a lot of parents, my parents never went to a Board of Ed meeting. They didn't know how to. I find out because I go to my PTO meetings. Other parents don't know how to. Look at it, same people at a lot of the meetings. You'll see all these faces.
Okay.
How many people are on the Zoom camera right now? You guys can shake your head. It's honestly disrespectful.
Oh, please, don't, please.
Please, why? To be
It's
honest,
not shaking your head.
okay,
It wasn't shaking a head in your
Okay.
comment, okay?
next
It
person.
was something else, and that's how misinformation gets out there.
Okay.
Stopping this right now, we're going on
And
to
please
the
go to the
next
next
topic.
person.
The next
And I
topic.
think I know, Mr. Wright, can you forward that email? I don't have it.
Yeah, I will. But I mistakenly showed up to the last meeting. I didn't even want to be here. I'm kind of glad I did show up. If we want to spend tax dollars, giving our kids better education, stop with the dress code policies. Use our money like you did in that last meeting to teach our kids better ways to learn. Because the whole dress policy, it's not going to get anywhere. Anywhere. Like this whole cell phone policy, I know I'm off topic. You're teaching our kids responsibility. If that kid comes to school with a cell phone, and they're on their phone, take it from them. You're teaching them responsibility. Stay off your phone. Because when you get a job in the real world, you're on your phone, you get fired. So this whole policy shouldn't even be in effect. If the parent cannot keep their kid off the phone, keep that cell phone home. Correct? Teach your responsibility, stay off your phone, because in the real world, you're not gonna make it.
Moving on to facility use. Yes.
I would like to suggest that maybe if you're involved with PTOs, yes, if you feel
I'm the PTO president. I do post it.
Okay, well, I didn't, because honestly, like, we post everything, the packets are up there as soon as they're ready. I mean, we're governed by very strict laws about what has to be posted and by when, and we always have to post. But you're right, if I wasn't on the board, if I was a parent, I wouldn't have the first clue probably where to look for that stuff. So if you guys want to liaise for us and help, and because we would love to have more parents coming and being invested. And it's unfortunate, it's a little frustrating sometimes when people become invested because they write something on Facebook and it's not even the correct information. Like, I don't want you guys to get mad about something that's not even right. So I think it would be super if PTOs could do that, because we would love more parents come to you. Absolutely.
Right, the principals send out a weekly newsletter. Maybe it can be included in that. We have 327 students at course. And I know of a little over 100 people who subscribe to our PTO page on Facebook. If you're only reaching a third of the parents, some of them work at night, some of them, have activities. Take my husband's birthday. I left him a casserole on the stove. It's a happy birthday. you know, this is important to me, so I'm here, but. You know, it's just, that we're asking for transparency, I don't think I'm asking for that. If you wanna stop the misinformation out there, help us help you.
And I think, I can speak for myself, but I do feel like like this dress code thing as an example, has been on topic for future meetings for a very time. And it comes up because we hear feedback from people in buildings, people in the community that what was currently happening was not working. And so that's why something like that comes up. So we communicate with the public through the posted agendas. Primarily, I mean, everything's on video also now too, and I know it sucks to watch those meetings, like, I don't think I would watch them all, I was not on the board, you know, honestly, so I totally get it, but things don't usually come out of nowhere. It's probably just that people aren't aware, because they haven't been following, and we're completely sympathetic to that, but maybe we can have some common understanding of that things get brought up here for a reason, and we're not necessarily gonna speak to all of the reasons when we put it on the agenda, but it's not coming out of nowhere. And we absolutely can address something like this and something like the bonding program and other concerns all at once. That's why we have subcommittees and so all those things are important. But I do appreciate those of you that came and in good faith and that want to participate. I think that's great. I wish you the best.
Sure, I can say that I have personally from the PTO, we can certainly add those notifications as you are. I'm sure we can post those kinds of things, that's not a problem. But to that point too, public participation has to encompass the entire community and in all sorts of things that our local school PTO means attendance isn't very high, and those are pushed out by the principal. There are notices that go home, there's email blasts that go, and I'm sure that other PTOs could share. Our attendance is very low. We're enthusiastic this year. We've had some great strides, some great volunteer parents, and there's some enthusiasm and direction with that, but it is still a very small percentage. There are some other committees that have very few people on there, a very directed topic to benefit a portion of our students, and they have a hard time getting participation. So yes, the information can get out there, but it's up to the public as well to engage and be with us in this journey.
So back to the stabilizing this. I just wanted to clarification. We're gonna take the look at something. Well, my suggestion is just, I think that some of this discussion occurred because the handbooks were not necessarily at the top of everyone's mind, which were in the handbooks. And so maybe, so enforcement of yes, okay.
Enforcement of all policies. Not only this one, all times.
Right, but what's in the handbook, right? I think because some of the things that people are objecting to are things that are currently in the handbook, they're just not aware.
Moving on to facilities.
So facilities is. So there is, until, everybody got this, right? John prepared, we were told, compared to announced, are you all?
Love that word.
Right. I'm getting a little far. Policy. In the packet, what I did get, we have an addendum to the policy. Right? That's all. Oh, that was. Page 9
And page 9. That's good shit.
Oh, I see.
Well, the first one there, pages 9 of 20.
Right.
10 of 20, 11 of 20, those are the current, that's the current policy, right? That's the way the current policy is written. And then 13 of 20, 12, 13, 14, and 15 of 20 is, and 16 of 20 is Shipman's recommendation. So, sorry, 17, 18. 19 of 20 is the current,
17 and 18, sorry, are just doing the form.
Yeah.
We have one.
19 of 20 is the current schedule of fees that we have right now. And 20 of 20 is our current application for facility use. After that, you'll see another schedule of fees. This was just something that I spent quite a bit of time looking at the policy that we had in our schedule of fees. And to sort of help, because the last time that we did discuss this about facilities at the budget meeting, there was a lot of questions about what other districts around us were doing. And so I created this wonderful analysis. That kind of gives you a comparison to what all of those fees look like in districts around us. From Farmington, Canton, Seymour, as you can see when you're looking at this, for instance, Seymour, the way they do their fees is their custodial fees are per contracts, and then their facilities use is 20% of whatever the custodial fees are for that time. Region 7, Region 6 both use the same fee schedule. You know, there was some in the utilities were built in on some of these fee schedules. Utility costs were built in, the use of electricity, water, heating, fuel for the buildings were built in, and then some of them charged fees. Region 15 was high, they were $75, but that's a flat rate fee. New Milford was interesting. I picked the middle of the road in New Milford, but their fees went from $9 for, say, groups that maybe like the town or a nonprofit group, all the way up to $28. Middle of the road was $16 per hour. Was what their charge was. Region 16 actually requires a $200 deposit. That goes along with their fees. That deposit is only returned if the facility is not damaged. Custodial fees are all by contract anyways. In Canton, what they do is they set their fees up as a 3-hour minimum. And one of the things that I did add in my sample to the policy, which you'll read, is that we would do a 3-hour minimum for those events, right? Because even if it were an hour-long event, the one thing that we never really had built into the policy before, or our fee schedule before, is the pre-setup and the post-cleanup of an event. So we were always saying that you know, the time of the event was going to be you know, from 1 o'clock to 2 o'clock. The custodian has to get in, open the building, make sure the lights are on, make sure the heat's up, because you know, we do heat setbacks. So if it's on a weekend, right, the buildings are cooler, so they have to get the heat started. You know, maybe bring barrels out, set barrels up and whatnot. So they need a little bit of time prior to the start of the event. And then after the event, they have to, you know, sweep and clean the floors, empty the trash, you know, that takes a little time. A lot of districts kind of do that. Some of them are 45 minutes before and an hour after. I went with a half an hour before. I think a half an hour is a reasonable amount of time to be able to set an event up. And so if we did it as a 3-hour minimum, if it was an hour-long event, it kind of covers that there. Beyond that, you're going to pay those custodial fees wherever they are per hour. So, you know, I added, if you go to where I made the changes to like even the fee schedule, and I put that at the bottom of the page highlighted in yellow, sort of what my proposed was. Right now, our utility fee is $1.66 per hour. It's certainly not covering the utility costs. I mean, we have contracted costs. We have contracts that lock those in some of these costs, but that's certainly not covering any utility costs whatsoever. Obviously, the custodial fees for, 1.5 and 2 hours, 2 hours being a Sunday, because it's double time on Sundays, would have to follow contract. So if this were to take effect on July 1st, contract for them would be 46 for time and a half and 61 for double time on Sundays. And then I kind of looked at the overall, what everybody else around us was doing for their fees and fee schedules. And I kind of made some adjustments to that. Those are just my suggested adjustments, nothing more than a suggestion.
So the fees that are on the fee schedule. It's per hour or per instance?
No, that's a one-time, it's not per hour, it's a one-time fee schedule, and then the custodial rate is per hour.
It's with a 3-hour minimum. And the custodian rate, this is their,
That's their contract rate, contracted rate of pay.
which is their base pay.
That is right, well, it's not their base pay, that is time and a half. So that number there is $46 for overtime, time and a half, or $61 for double time. So their base pay is less than that.
But it doesn't include.
So I asked the question previously, so that $46 an hour is their base hourly rate. So if you work in a store and you make $20 an hour, time and a half would be $30 an hour. But that employer takes on a bunch of different additional liabilities for the taxes, health insurance, the contributions to a pension. I think the goal is not to make money in these events, right? We're trying to, for the most part, we're trying to cover our expense. We want to make sure that we actually cover our expenses. Bringing your budgets up, you do the things you're supposed to do. So that was my question. Did this include taxes or any other thing that the district incurs?
Fringing benefits.
Yes.
No, I followed what we had put and what all other districts do, right? They, they clearly say per contract. And when they talk about their contract price, they show a fee schedule in there for custodial contract, but that doesn't include fringing benny rates. The fringing benny is certainly above and beyond. That's not really listed in the contract per se as rate of pay. So I only did it as, this is where our contract would be to pay these guys out for that. What happens on these is it does slightly vary depending on which custodian takes the overtime, whether that's a custodian 1 or a custodian 2. There are slight variances that would happen with that. I still feel like the fee schedule that we set really kind of looks at the higher of the 2 fee schedules. So yeah, I mean, you would have a little bit more money that you would be asking for if you had a custodian 1 go there versus a custodian 2, but it's really an insignificant amount.
But this is based on.
It's based on the more senior rate. So basically what you would be looking at is it's 75 cent, roughly a 75 cent difference. I did add a lot of language in here. So if you looked at our original policy and, there was a lot of things that were in there, and actually I'm going to point one right out right away that you'll see that I took out, and I hope I won't get myself in trouble for it. But there was a policy in here that says any board or its representative shall have full and free access of all, page 10 of 20, section F. So any member of the board or its representative shall have full and free access of at all times to any part of the building. No grant or permission of school use shall be carried with any right to exclude any member of Board of Education or its representatives from the property. The only reason why I removed that one, and I kind of changed it, was that we schedule, a lot of these events get scheduled out well in advance, and, their people prepare for these. There's a inherent value to, them preparing for these events, and to have maybe the Board of Education say out of the blue, hey, I want to rent the building, and I don't even need to tell you that I want to rent the building, or use the building at that particular time and kick another person out. I didn't know, I didn't feel like that would be the right way to handle that. I think it should always be a request for the form, so that it can be scheduled properly, so that we can.
So I'm a representative of the board, and when I schedule a meeting, I schedule, I go through the same conflict outside.
Correct.
Or I do that now.
Yep,
I
absolutely.
go through the document and I fill out the review form if I want the library or whatever.
Yep.
So I think that's happening.
It is happening. It's kind of the way the language was written in the original policy. I kind of changed it to just say that, hey, yeah, you should follow the process of filling out that form. Whether it's the board or not, so that they can go on the schedule, so we're not bumping events that have already been scheduled.
Appreciate
Well,
what we have been doing. Stop shipments policies, nowhere in shipments policy.
Wouldn't that be on page 13? The school sponsored programs and activities. Order of priority. So I think that's covered.
Right, so it's not.
I have a question. How often does this happen on the weekends where you're really talking about hiring custodians?
quite a bit.
All of
Yeah.
them. Other than at the high school, if we up high school out at the other schools too?
Yeah, the middle schools, you have several organizations that use it fairly regularly. We actually picked up a new one this year. It's a private soccer league that has really gotten a lot of traction. I mean, they have really got quite a few people that are coming. They were absorbing time at Oval Wetmore Friday night from 6 to 10, Saturday from 5 to 10, and Sunday from 1 to 8. That's a lot of time. We actually negotiated with them today to kind of cut down some of that time because it was more time than, my crew of 28 guys, like we need some time off as well. They're working 8 hours a day in their shifts, and then they're covering overtime. Sometimes they have to cover overtime during the week. It's written into their contract on certain things that are contractually obligated for overtime for them. And then if you put all that weekend time in as well, we've gotten complaints from the guys that, hey, they love overtime, but then they're going, wait a minute, too much. You gotta slow it down a little bit. So the buildings get used quite a bit on the weekends.
Thanks, John.
We use the word negotiate. Why would we bother negotiating? Why don't we just tell them? It's an out-of-town organization. We owe them nothing.
In your own way, John, yes, you are absolutely right. We don't owe them anything, but I also don't want to turn anybody away. This organization is not an out-of-town organization. They're actually, the whole group is from within Torrington. They have children in our schools. Actually, the one exciting thing that I wanted to say that really has little to do with this discussion is the gentleman that came today is one of Ed Aram's apprentices that was hired to work on our school construction project. So I was like super excited that he was actually an in-town guy that went through that program, but regardless, they are an in-town group, and my negotiation with them was more about saying to them, hey, can we close that gap of time down? It's a lot of time that you're asking for. And that's what we did. We came up with something that worked for the group and that also worked for us.
We also just the people you
I can't answer that question. I don't know if they
don't know any of them out of town.
I can't answer that question.
Percentage of the people who use our facilities are nonprofits because they don't pay the fee rental. So you've done a lot of work to appreciate it. But what percentage does it not apply to?
Yeah, there's not a lot of people that we do collect fees from. A lot of them are either school organizations or they are nonprofit where the fees are very limited, right? They're really just reimbursing the custodial use fees. They're really not even paying a fee for the use of the facility.
Which is
But yeah, as far as the actual percentage, something I would have to do some research on it back.
I'm just curious, yeah, if you support the community, that's our job, right? Just to make them available. I was just curious as to how many people actually would be impacted by a change.
Just a couple of things. My concern about that is, I feel strongly that the schools should be used for things that benefit kids or community members. So if we have these big groups that are blocking out all this time, are we prohibiting groups that benefit kids from having access to the building? Or can we limit that and look at the applicants, because the schools should have a preferential treatment of running a, just say, a soccer league indoor at school for kids in our school versus the adult that has other options. I guess I'm thinking.
I know they have, I played a double bottle. If there was a school function that would involve kids, we could not have that.
I'm saying like outside groups, right? So if we are doing soccer, they want to do an indoor league, but the adults have booked 16 weekends in the school, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. The kids that nonprofits working with kids wouldn't have an opportunity to use.
Yeah, that hasn't happened. We actually do give preferential treatment to groups that are directly involved, students of our buildings, the town basketball groups, there's a volleyball group, there is another soccer group that's using those buildings, but they've never gotten one from their schedules at all.
But how long do we let people book out?
There is no requirement to that. Typically what we say to people is that on our form, actually, it says that we like to see them have the form submitted into us with the insurance requirements 4 weeks in advance of the thing. So it's really 4 weeks.
But do we let them book on that one form for like
They-
3 months?
Yeah, so for instance, the soccer group that we were talking about today, they are requesting use of the facility until mid-May.
Not year long.
They're not year long. It's
3 days a week.
we've cut that down to 2 days a week. And we're gonna give them a couple of Sundays instead of that full 3 days a week. And they,
It's indoor.
it's an indoor soccer league, and they have, I took a payment in from them the other day. They're up to date and paying their facilities fees. So it's,
Do they fill out a form for each one?
not every day, they fill out a form for, so we have one form that's just for the, Friday and Saturdays, because they run consecutive from now until mid-May. And then we have another form that's just for the 2 Sunday events that they wanted to have, which are 4 hours of time for each one of those events. And then they did ask to potentially have their championship match at Torrington High School. They have to fill another form out for that. All those forms, any forms for Torrington High School has to be vetted through the athletic department, right? So Mr. McKenna will get those forms. He looks at those against his school schedule to make sure that that all of our school sports and then our school calendar takes precedence over anything else. If it's an open day, then they're able to.
Yeah. Rain out, you need to kick a game back a day. Or like if the team's supposed to play a game and it looks good because it's scheduled on a Saturday. There's a rain out, they want to push it back because do we have the ability to?
Our sports and our events always take precedence. So if we have to, because we're raining out or something, have to take and use the event, then the the group that's renting the facility is notified right away. And it says that on our.
Thanks, so our custodians can turn down all.
Absolutely.
Nobody asked for it.
I have an custodian, some of them want it and some of them don't, and there is a contractual component of that where overtime for the weekends is done by the night custodians during the week. And the reason why is because they can't do night overtime during the week because they're working their regular hours. And vice versa, the day custodians get to work the overtime during the nights during the week, if there's any overtime there. So that's a smaller pool of people sometimes, and sometimes it's hard to find people that want that overtime. I have some custodians that will be like, you know, give me all the overtime you want, and I have other custodians, no, I don't want no overtime. It does become a juggle.
There's a partnership. It's a big identification.
Yeah, we don't, and actually, it's actually interesting that you said that, because as I was going through and I was building this sheet today, in order to build this sheet, I had to look at all of the other school facilities use forms, and this kept coming up again and again and again. It wasn't something that I had noticed the first time around. I wasn't looking at that kind of stuff when I was looking at more language, right? And then all of a sudden I was like, oh wow, there's this identification. And then when I saw the policy that Shipman sent with that in here, that is definitely something we do not have, and it's definitely something we should have.
And I think the right to also revoke future rentals, like if you have alcohol on premises, if you're tailgating in the parking lot, if you cough, you're done, you can't rent the facility.
The other thing that was interesting, and the thing that if we go back into my proposed changes to the policy, in that first. Yeah, this first page, rules and regulation, on this one's sort of towards the end of the group. That number B there talks about property damage and liability coverage limits. There was only 2 other school districts that their property and damage liability limits were $500,000. $1 million was the most common. And I believe it was 16.
Now, where are you looking at?
Would be 2 pages after 20 of 20.
Page 23.
Yeah. Yep, the old font.
Oh, here, I see.
Yeah, see number 8. I brought the insurance requirements up to $1 million. There was only 2 other school districts that were at 500,000 out of all the ones I looked at, and Region 16 was at 2 million. Yeah. So actually, and if you, so that's good too. Sue pointed out some things, right? I added quite a bit of restrictions, and so if you flip the page over, and it says restrictions on use of school facilities. All right, so number B, you know, in our old policy, it was, you know, there's no smoking and no alcoholic beverages. But I think because of the way that the society has changed now, right? We needed to be clear on some of the language like vape products, alcoholic beverages, unauthorized controlled substances. Those things need to be put in there. You know, right now, you know, the sale of marijuana products in Connecticut are legal now, right? But that doesn't mean that they can be used on our school property. It's still against the state law. And so I think that it's clear that we just need to clearly spell some more of that stuff out.
Make it responsible for anyone.
Yeah, I did put something in there about the, remember where it landed. About the supervision, what was required in supervision for groups coming in, that they were solely responsible to supervise themselves. The other one that wasn't in our original policy that I added into this, and you can change the numbers. I've seen the numbers from 50 to 200. But that would be back on that first page again, where the insurance was number C. And I used 75, and again, you can change those numbers. Occupants are more required to notify the police and fire marshal. All costs associated with police and fire marshal requirements will be the responsibility of the group renting the facility and are to be paid directly to the city of Torrington. Please provide the notification letter. So when we changed our form, we actually put a check-off place on there where if the group is larger than 75, 100, 150, whatever you guys want to select as those numbers. Again, these are just my suggestions. We never did that before, right? And where that came into play was, for instance, a soccer game. They had a tournament game at Boulder Wetmore School. And the gym was absolutely packed. The hallway was absolutely packed with people. And I definitely had some concerns when I saw the video about the fire safety. And also we know that, and there's a lot of volatility in our society now. And if you get two people that just don't like each other, and next thing you know, there's a fight that breaks out, we only have one custodian there that's protecting our assets. So I really feel like we should tell these groups that, yes, you do need to contact the police, get their approval, and have them notified that we're having an event that maybe isn't school related, or even if it is school related, that these events are large and, tempers can flare, or, that fire exits or egresses aren't being blocked or something like that. I think that's really important.
So within shipments policy, it passed under C, page 13 to 20, as back.
Yeah, and actually, Ellen, just so you know that everything that I've added into like this by suggestion, a lot of them came from all these other school districts that they reference either the shipment policy or the K policy. So this wasn't like kind of my own language that I made up, right? I looked at all these other policies and I kind of grabbed stuff and I said, oh, I like that. That would be good. Like, we need to spell this out more.
Right, but what I'm saying is what the committee has been doing was adopting shipments policy and adding to it. So it looks like it has that portion with the alcohol and such. It doesn't look like it has the occupancy or the insurance, which is that to be added. So is there anything else within your policy that shipments policy doesn't address? I think that I would like to take the time to maybe lay those two policies on top of one another, and then maybe come back and to another committee and, say, I can bullet point it, and maybe I can be as articulate as Andrew was.
So that's what I'm doing, right here.
Okay.
Throughout the whole policy manual.
Yep.
So, yeah, and I'm sorry, I didn't know you were working on this.
Yeah.
Because
We didn't know anything about
We would have jumped in and.
Yeah, no, this was just, this was
So,
me kind of grabbing the bull by the horns and running.
yeah, perfect, so. we can help.
Okay, I would,
It's also good to know that the things that you were thinking, lawyers have already put in a policy. Do you know what I
Yes.
mean? So that's.
Yeah.
You're on
Yeah,
the same page there.
yeah, I, if I would just afford the time to lay these two and kind of bullet point where
Yeah.
those things are.
Yeah, it's a crosswalk that
Yep,
we're gonna do in
crosswalk.
all of the
I've
policies,
heard that, Kim said that.
right? So, yeah,
Also on the, this application on shipments, it doesn't say the name of the school.
Yeah, so
That.
So on
you know,
the,
so look at that too.
on the application, I actually, if you go, if you you go to this last page here, I worked with Erica on this. It's actually, this would be a front and back. So this part being the front of our the new application. Where it kind of adds in a lot of the pieces of the puzzle that were missing from our old application. Things like, if, we have a lot of people that come to us and say, yeah, hey, we're a nonprofit. And, we might think they're a nonprofit, but are they truly a nonprofit? Because 510C letter. 501C, okay, so I typoed it wrong. 501C letter, just provide us a copy. This way here, we know that you are a nonprofit. The fire and police approval letter, your certificate of insurance, a lot of times, that's one that's missed on our old policy, right? We ask for a certificate of insurance and sometimes we don't get it until after the event has happened. So we want to make sure like we're signing off on these things and we're getting these things and we're, so that all of the things are checked so that at the bottom, when I sign this, I look up and I say, well, wait a minute, I'm not signing this because I don't have a certificate yet. I don't have the 501C letter or whatever it is. So we kind of tried to streamline it a little bit. And then on the back, what I did was, which wasn't on our old form, was I kind of bullet pointed like the restrictions or the important parts of the policy so that they were clearly there again to say, hey, you need to provide supervision. This is the insurance requirements. You got to check the fire marshal. There's no smoking, alcohol, all that stuff. The custodial requirements. And then at the last one, number 7, I said, the preceding items or a brief summary of Torrington Board of Education's policy 1011. Applicant should become familiar with the board's policy, which can be found on the district's website. And then checks are made payable to. And at the bottom, obviously, if we do, that's the lawyer's language for you agree to everything that you just put on this.
Gentlemen, what you said about the 75% occupancy, is that intended for outside renters only, or would a school event be subject to that as well? But so school event, a lot of times, there's a lot of supervision there because the building administrators are there.
Yeah.
What's
So
the intent?
I think the intent is for outside occupants, right? Because if it's our school event, yes, we already, all of our administrators drill for fire drills and everything. We're required to do 10 a year. They know how to evacuate people out of the building, but people that come to our buildings that, haven't done that, don't know. So that at that point, the fire marshal, I think does, and the police need to step in and say, yeah, here's our do's and don'ts, or here's how you have to exit the building here.
And so say I'm an outside group, I want to rent this.
Good night.
Say Kathy would like to.
Okay.
So, does the information just be given to her and she fills it all out, or is there like a back and forth?
Well,
That
so-
she'll know that occupancy for this cafeteria is 420.
So they're posted in all of the spaces, okay?
But how does that get communicated to the person? Right.
So that's where our current disconnect is now, right? If an outside group said to us, hey, we want to rent the cafeteria at Forbes, they don't even have to identify the amount of people that they're bringing to the facility. So in my last district, what they actually had in there was how many people do you anticipate? Which kind of helps us to direct whether we need fire, police or whatnot. Whether we can fit them in the space that they're requesting.
So within, maybe I'm just thinking, if we can double with facility fees, we can say like the gymnasium capacity, whatever, high school, band cafeteria.
So
capacity.
the only
Put it on
The only problem with that, and it's a great suggestion, but when it comes to capacity of the room, the capacity is different if I have just people standing here It's different if I put chairs in here, and it's different if I have tables in here, and what types of tables I have. Right, it changes, it's really strange, but it changes dramatically depending on how the setup of the room is.
Could you do it so that any event that has over 75 people needs a different approval process? Because I mean, unless it's a school, like the school stuff is different, sports teams are different. But my concern is too, just like the wear and tear on the building, right? Having some little kids running around playing basketball is different than having 150 grown men and all the visitors, women and friends and, you know, mucking up the floors, the walls. I don't know, it just seems like, because I think when the new building comes, there's gonna be a lot more desire to utilize the space, and we just hate to just the wear
And
tear on
that's-
the building.
And that's what the intent of the fees are, right? So the fees can't be, so, you know, we did talk about this in the budgeting, but the fees go into a revenue account. They cannot be put back in to pay for for salaries for custodians, but they can be used for those maintenance things, right? So if we had wear and tear on our floor, we could use that for repairs on the floor, or if a mat got ripped on the wall, we could use that for replacing the mat.
Maybe like something to think about, like a different process for if it's more than so many people.
So I can certainly, now that I know that, I probably should have talked to
Andrew, I wasn't ignoring.
No, I'm just thinking about that, because I think it is different. It is. It is. We should probably be different. If you're like 10 people. Fine.
Did we answer your question?
That's a question I can ask later. I was thinking there's sometimes with a neutral site for CIAs, it would still apply.
But that would be from the schools, this would just be
Like,
for outside groups.
Right, but it would sometimes for a neutral site for two different schools that come in for a sporting event,
Okay,
Oh, not ours.
right?
but that's a good point. Yes, John.
Looking at the clock and knowing that Sue and John are getting together with this right there. We are maybe to the point where we can, if we look at this policy at home, suggest to them things they should include in their discussions to be brought back to us at some later date, instead of just going back and forth with every question. And I've been guilty of that too. It could go on forever.
This is a good start.
Very good. We have a process.
If anyone has suggestions.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I think he can talk to you.
He had more months.
Yeah. Yeah, he had better, way better material.
So we're going to hold off on the schedule fees until we have a whole package, correct? Because this one thing, your anticipation is to have it right.
Yeah, so, we do have a little bit of time and.
Yeah, other like.
Yeah, I mean,
Even from each school.
and from a feedback perspective, I mean, what would be nice to know is if the suggestions that I made, at least from the fee perspective, you guys are okay with that, then we can, you know, I can sort of lock up that schedule of fees to send to you as a proposed schedule of fees, unless there's something that you want to make some changes on or amendments on what I'm proposing to introduce to you.
That can wait till next meeting.
Absolutely.
We can approve that. So, at least we have time to.
So you have it, but you have the form in front of you, so you can see what everybody's like now, so.
For future meetings. And this. Comments for the good of the order, Mark.
No, thank you.
Good, thank you. Just the discussion of the rest of the policy this summer, so that it can be effective. at the end of the school year.
No, I know, I'm just saying as far as like a timeline.
Right, absolutely.
We want more.
It's, I know that's the thing.
Laura? Comment?
All set, thank you.
Brian, comment? Credit, comment?
No, John, thank you for getting all that information together.
You're welcome.
Amanda, comment?
No comment, thank you.
Great, thank you for the information. Continue. Motion to adjourn. John and Kathy.
Good night.
Good night.